The observance of Black history won't be over at the end of this month. The museum, a short ride away, will tell the story of a history-making, record-breaking African-American cyclist who got his start in Indianapolis. That's next month. His name, Marshall Walter Taylor. So let's welcome Kisha Tandy from the Indiana State Museum and Historic Sites, who is here to tell us his story. Kisha, thanks for joining us this morning, and sorry for massacring your name.
Good morning, no problem. Marshall Major Taylor was a champion cyclist and a remarkable athlete. He was born here in Indianapolis, and he would become a professional cyclist in 1896. He would then go on to have 7 world records by 1898. By 1899, he was a world champion, and by 1900, he was the American sprint champion. And his life began here in Indianapolis. He was a husband, a father. He was one of 8 children. He had a remarkable life, and we will share his story here at the museum.
Well, you know, Kisha, we've heard about athletes like Jackie Robinson and Jesse Owens, not necessarily Major Taylor. Why do you think that is?
I think because his story is so early. He was born in 1878. He passed away in 1932. And his major cycling career was between the years of 1896 and 1910. And so his career was just so early. And I think that's one of the reasons why many people do not know about him. However, he has been getting a lot of recognition, people learning about his story, and they will be able to continue to learn about him at the museum beginning next month with the exhibit, but always through the online collection.
So let's point out that Marshall Taylor was his name. Major was not his first name, but how did he get that nickname?
Yes, so he received the nickname, according to him in his autobiography and different sources, because he wore a uniform while performing at his job at the Hay and Willits bicycle shop here in Indianapolis. So it was a name that he had very early on, and it stuck, and it is very fitting for Marshall Major Taylor.
So in the course of conducting your research for this exhibit, did you find out anything that really shocked you, that really stood out as fascinating to you?
Throughout the course of research, everything was pretty fascinating. We have a wonderful collection of materials here at the museum, including 9 scrapbooks and several of his ledgers. And so he kept records. And I have the feeling that he always knew that he was going to tell his story. He did write and publish his autobiography, and much of that information comes from these early scrapbooks of newspapers and different things. So the fascinating piece was that he kept so many records, and they were so detailed. His ledgers, where he was traveling, because he was an international superstar, traveling and racing in places like Paris and in Australia. And so he kept all of those records, and that was truly fascinating to be able to have that material to not only use for his source in writing his own story, but also now that we as researchers can go through and use that information and to help to tell his story in an exhibit format.
Very briefly, is there one piece of eye candy in this exhibit for folks?
There is a bicycle that comes to us from the United States Bicycle Hall of Fame in California, and it is Major's bike.
All right, that's great. Well, if people want to check out the exhibit or the museum, how do they do so? How do they connect with you?
IndianaMuseum.org. They can connect with me through the museum website, IndianaMuseum.org.
All right, Kisha, thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Thank you.